Eltham Police Station, 1993, and in the incident room, detectives investigating the murder of Stephen Lawrence have been given names of 5 suspects. But 30 years on, it's emerged there was a 6th person under surveillance. He's Matthew White, who died in 2021 at the age of 50. He was arrested twice by the murder squad and twice released without charge.
I'm shocked and disappointed at some of the information I'm seeing now. That it was already there all the time, and the police didn't use it to try and catch all the killers who killed my son, the people who killed my son.
Stephen was stabbed to death close to a bus stop in Eltham in April 1993. The botched police investigation became the subject of a public inquiry which concluded the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist. The 5 suspects were called to give evidence but refused to answer questions. The names of the 5 suspects in this case have long been known. 2 of them were convicted of Stephen's murder and are in prison. But this is the first time a possible 6th member of the gang has been identified. Stephen's friend Dwayne Brooks was the only witness to the murder. He told officers there were 6 in the gang, but police treated Dwayne as a suspect.
I'm not surprised that yet another piece of evidence that Dwayne Brooks gave the police at the time of the murder has been shown to be crucial, and yet was dissed at the time of his first statements to the police and has been dissed since.
The documentary accuses the police of disregarding eyewitness descriptions, including one from Dwayne Brooks.
White also looked like effits and artist impressions by eyewitnesses at the bus stop. They weren't given the chance to see him in a police lineup.
In a statement, Stephen's mother, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, said, "The failure to properly investigate a main suspect in a murder case is so grave that it should be met by serious sanctions. Only when police officers lose their jobs can the public have confidence that failure and incompetence will not be tolerated, and that change will happen."
The Lawrence family have had to go through years and years of discovering yet further failings from the police service, deep institutional racially driven failings, and today's yet another example of that.
Scotland Yard said when police questioned Matthew White, he denied any involvement in Stephen's murder. But a senior officer conceded too many mistakes were made in the initial investigation.
The TV producer who has accused a man wanting to become the next Conservative Mayor of London of groping her has now submitted a formal complaint to the Cabinet Office. Daisy Goodwin claims Daniel Korski groped her 10 years ago when he was working for the then Prime Minister David Cameron. He has denied the claims. Our political correspondent Simon Harris is at Conservative Party headquarters this lunchtime. Simon, what's the latest on this?
Nina, Daniel Korski is one of 3 finalists in a contest to choose the Conservative Party candidate in next year's London mayoral election. And this morning, all 3 of them were called to a meeting here at Conservative Party headquarters. Mr Korski wouldn't comment on the way in, and party officials won't tell us what the meeting was about. But it's clear the crisis engulfing this selection process isn't going away. Daisy Goodwin has made a formal complaint to the Cabinet Office claiming that Mr Korski touched her breast in Downing Street 10 weeks ago. Downing Street said the allegations were very serious, and some MPs who've supported Mr Korski's campaign now seem to be having second thoughts.
Look, there's been a very serious allegation. I said that I'm going to pause that support just, while we see what happens. It's really important that we get the right candidate for the Mayor of London. It's an important position, and it's important that we get someone who can command the respect of Londoners.
Mr Korski insisted yesterday that what Daisy Goodwin said happened didn't happen. He emphatically denies the allegations, and it seems he's determined to continue in his bid to be the Conservative Party candidate in the mayoral election. He's due to attend another event this evening with his arrivals to talk to local Tory party members in London. And as far as we can tell, he's not going to give in to what Labour have called for, which is for the party to suspend him.
Simon Harris, thank you.
Good evening. It's fair to say the shortlist to be the Conservative mayoral candidate isn't brimming with household names, but now the profile of early frontrunner Daniel Korski is rising for all the wrong reasons. He's been accused of sexual assault while he worked as a special advisor in Downing Street 10 years ago. He strongly denies this. Writing in 2 newspapers today, the TV producer Daisy Goodwin alleged the assault happened when she had a meeting with him. She's come forward after hearing Daniel Korski's campaign includes making the capital safer for women. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has more.
Hi, I'm Dan Korski, and I'm standing to be the Conservative Party candidate to take on and beat Sadiq Khan.
Daniel Korski has big ambitions, but his embryonic political career is mired in sleaze allegations.
That's where the magic happens. So come with me and get a tour.
Daisy Goodwin is a TV producer, the brains behind ITV's Victoria. She's told 2 newspapers that 10 years ago, Mr. Korski groped her. She first spoke about it in 2017, but only now is naming him. Daisy Goodwin said she met Daniel Korski at a social event when he was working as a special advisor in David Cameron's government. He invited her to a meeting in Number 10 a few weeks later to discuss a possible TV project. She told the Daily Mail, at the end of the meeting we both stood up and Korski, to my astonishment, put his hand on my breast. I looked at the hand and then in my most affronted voice said, "Are you actually touching my breast?" He dropped his hand and laughed nervously. I swept out in what can only be called high dudgeon.
I didn't do what's been alleged. I absolutely didn't do that.
In a TV interview, Mr. Korski hit back at Miss Goodwin's claims.
I certainly didn't leave the meeting feeling that I had done anything wrong, and subsequently even wrote to her congratulating her on some of her professional success. But I don't really know why she felt the way she did. All I can say is that I have always endeavoured to create the best professional environment, an empowering professional environment for everybody.
Mr. Korski is one of 3 finalists in the contest to choose the next Conservative candidate in London's mayoral election. Last night, he was at a hustings event in Southwark with his rivals, but left early as Miss Goodwin's allegations emerged.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave now, but thank you very much for listening to me. I've got a business plan to make London faster, safer, smarter, better connected.
In his campaign video, Mr. Korski says the safety of women on London's streets would be a priority.
There's lots being said. Let's investigate the claims. Let's have an independent board look at them and let him give testimony about what happened.
Tonight, Labour demanded the Conservatives suspend Mr. Korski. The Conservative Party said it had a code of conduct, but would only investigate a complaint where it had jurisdiction, implying any complaint against Mr. Korski during his time as a special advisor would be a matter for the Cabinet Office.
Simon, how high are the stakes for Daniel Korski's future then?
Well, until yesterday, he was the bookies' favourite to be the Tory candidate. He isn't now. Daisy Goodwin says she came forward with these allegations, even though she's never made a formal complaint, because he wants to be mayor and because of what he said about wanting to make the streets of London safer for women. Now, Mr. Korski was asked in his TV interview today if he expected her allegations to prompt more women to come forward. He said, to the best of his knowledge, he doesn't expect more to come out. He also says, because he's innocent, he intends to continue his campaign to be the Conservative mayoral candidate in next year's mayoral election, where Sadiq Khan is hoping to get a 3rd term. Tonight, one of his rivals, the London Assembly member Susan Hall, who is now the bookies' favourite, said it was up to Mr. Korski to decide whether or not to pull out.
OK, Simon, thank you.
Good evening. He was hoping to be the Tory candidate to be the next London mayor, but tonight Daniel Korski has pulled out of the race. In a statement in the last hour and a half, he said he was withdrawing with a heavy heart. He still denies the allegation he touched a woman inappropriately when he worked in Downing Street 10 years ago. The TV producer Daisy Goodwin made an official complaint when she contacted the Cabinet Office yesterday. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the latest.
Hi, I'm Dan Korski.
He was the front-runner to be Conservative candidate, but tonight Daniel Korski's dreams of being London's next mayor are in tatters. His accuser had turned up the heat. Daisy Goodwin is a TV producer. 24 hours after writing newspaper articles saying Korski groped her in Downing Street 10 years ago, she made a formal complaint to the Cabinet Office and gave a radio interview.
I have been contacted by other women with some very interesting stories, which clearly I can't talk about for legal reasons, but I feel entirely justified in having written the piece and naming him.
The crisis engulfing the Tory mayoral campaign wasn't going away. Earlier today, Mr Korski and his two rivals were called to a meeting at Conservative Party headquarters. Party officials declined to say what it was about. This was Muzamel Hussain, one of the three Tory hopefuls, as he went into the building. Can you tell us what the meeting's about? Susan Hall, another of the three, was equally guarded as she left the meeting. Is Mr Korski still in the contest?
Yes, I believe so.
So what was the meeting about?
Just a chat.
But support for Korski was slipping. MPs who backed him appeared to be having second thoughts.
There's been a very serious allegation. I've said that I'm going to pause that support just, while we see what happens. And it's really important that we get the right candidate for the Mayor of London. It's an important position, and it's important that we get someone who can command the respect of Londoners. This afternoon, Korski dramatically quit, saying in a statement, "I have decided with a heavy heart to withdraw from the Conservative mayoral contest. The pressure on my family because of this false and unproven allegation and the inability to get a hearing for my message of the London dream makes it impossible for my campaign to carry on." The three-horse race to choose a Tory candidate is now a runoff between just two. Simon Harris, ITV News, Westminster.
We heard from Simon earlier. He's now in the studio. So, Simon, what happens next? Well,
the Conservative Party has decided that it'll go ahead with just the two of them, Muzamel Hussain and Susan Hall, slugging it out before the result is announced on July the 19th. Susan Hall is an experienced politician, member of the London Assembly, former Harrow Council leader. Muzamel Hussain is a barrister, a KC, but a political novice. So I imagine that makes Susan Hall the front runner to challenge Sadiq Khan in the election in May next year. Now, eyebrows were raised during this process of choosing a candidate when the Minister for London, Paul Scully, was left off the shortlist. And tonight, Steve Norris, who was the Conservative candidate in the first mayoral election in 2000, has called for a new shortlist to be drawn up. He says there's a precedent because he inherited the role with a renewed process after the original candidate, Lord Jeffrey Archer, was forced to step down when he was accused of perjury.
There we go. Simon, for now, thank you.